Here's your weather headlines for your September the 10th. A bit warmer today, but still low humidity and still comfortably warm. Maybe a sprinkle chance for a few areas west of I-65, south of 64 here this morning. We'll take a look at that with the radar and satellite again in just a second. But again, most areas will stay dry, and maybe a sprinkle chance for tonight. Sometimes these little, what we call short waves, can kind of outperform the weather models and produce a little bit of precipitation when it doesn't even show up on the weather models. So we'll talk more about that. Near 90 this weekend. The dry pattern continues through the middle of next week, mostly dry. Play ball forecast, 77 at noon, 84 this afternoon, and partly cloudy. At times, maybe mostly cloudy as we get this disturbance kind of spilling in some clouds. And that'll just make it feel good as well. So here are the stupid weather jokes. Now, this might be my favorite weather joke ever on top. I've heard this one before, said in different ways, but we're going to do it the PG. PG. I'm gonna call this rated PG. The weather reporter at the gym was often mistaken for a physician. People thought he was a meteorologist. Meteorologist? All right. Since this bad weather started, my wife hasn't stopped staring through the patio windows. If it gets any worse, I might have to let her in. I think it's kind of funny. I really enjoyed that weather show on Netflix. All 4 seasons of it. Boom-ch. All right. 1 out of 10. Let me know what you're thinking. I'm giving these. As far as these are the weather jokes, I'm going to give them an 8 out of 10. Meteorologist. All right. Here's your weather history. 1811, the first U.S. tornado to kill more than 10 people took 11 lives in Charleston, South Carolina, spawned by a landfalling hurricane. But I'm guessing the records were pretty spotty way back in the day. There may have been some other tornado that did worse and never got reported. But on record, 1811, 1919, one of the most intense hurricanes that hit the U.S. swept through Key West, Florida. Over 700 people died, and that track went up into Corpus Christi. 1960, again, this time of the year, September is peak hurricane time of the year, so you're going to see a lot of tropical stuff. 1960, Hurricane Donna over the Florida Keys. Donna was a Cat 5, made landfall Cat 4. 1976, Tropical Storm Kathleen hit San Diego. You don't hear about tropical systems hitting Southern California very often. 6 people killed with that. 1998, Tropical Storm Francis made landfall, coastal flooding and beach erosion. The biggest coastal flooding and beach erosion for parts of Texas since Hurricane Carla. And then 2003, check this one out. A Florida couple won $21 million when they bought the winning lottery ticket while shopping for a surge protector after lightning had struck their TV set. So very unlucky, but then very, very lucky. That would be a nice turn of events right there. 2017, Hurricane Irma crossed the Florida Keys as a Cat 4 hurricane. Christian asked about the weather tomorrow. It should be dry across the area, partly cloudy and some lower to mid 80s, and the humidity will stay pretty low as well. And we've got Vicky with a report here. Good morning, Ben. Cloudy and hazy in Salem. I thought it was going to be sunny today. Well, actually partly cloudy. Well, we've got this. Let me show you what's going on here, Vicky. We've got a little disturbance. It's a little a little impulse, a little short wave. So that'll pass on through, and we'll likely see plenty of sunshine today as well. So a little disturbance moving through the atmosphere. And look how small that disturbance is, by the way, when we look at it with some perspective here and zoom out. So what you're looking at is this little disturbance. It's like the little engine that could. It's doing a little bit better than the weather models were showing, with some sprinkles and a brief light shower for a few areas out to the west. We're going to see if it can hold together into the dry air that it's kind of spilling into right now. And let's go ahead and bring up as well let's see if I can pop in the dew point temperatures, because the dew points are still very dry across the area. So these are the METAR observations that should pop in here, and I want to put this on the latest. Let me see if we can get this to load. There we go. So Notice the dew points. Let's go full screen here. We're going to do a little analysis. You got 57 dew point. That's dry in Louisville. You got 61 in Elizabethtown. You got some lower 60s dew points. So a little bit more moisture in that little pocket with that short wave out to the west near Tell City, near Santa Claus, western edge of Breckinridge County in Kentucky. But as that moves to the east, I think it'll weaken. I think it'll hit into some drier air, and most of us will not see a sprinkle from that. And we got a good morning here from Mike Siebert. Thanks for watching here this morning. Joyce with a good morning. There are no hurricanes to talk about. We talked about this a little bit earlier in the show. You probably weren't with us, Christian, but there is no hurricane activity expected within the next 7 days from the National Hurricane Center. So it is very quiet despite being, again, the peak of hurricane season. So there you go. That is what is happening here with this little disturbance out to the west. We can go ahead and bring up the live radar as well. I just think it's interesting. We're finally seeing, I mean, it's been about a week since we've seen any rain on the radar. Clear that out. So why is it still drawing? There we go. So there you can see just a little activity there around Perry County, southern Perry County, and then holding together. Oops, sorry for the super zoom there. So Hardinsburg, you might, if this can hold together, you might get some drops to hit the ground. Let me know if you do, if you're watching from Breckinridge County. Have doubts that it would make it into Meade County. And I have doubts that much will actually hit the ground, again, for how dry it is. Hey, Christian, I'm feeling a lot better. I took a Z-Pack, and I'm feeling pretty much 100%. That means I need to get back to lifting weights and running. I've been finding too many excuses. The weather's too good to not be active. So I need to make some better choices and get back at it, as they say. All right, so there you go. Okay, we took a little break with the radar. We're going to play a little game. We're going to see how these hold together over the next. We'll stay on here for probably another 20, 25 minutes. But again, sometimes these short waves, the models don't do the equations perfectly, and they can kind of outperform and give us a little precip chance every once in a while. But again, it'll be pretty small here for us. Well, let me bring back up the forecast. All right, that's the weather history. We're going to move on here. How many days until? We've got 12 days until autumn begins, average highs in the 60s and 39 days. Halloween, 51 days away. And our average first flurries, guys, 66 days. I think that's right around mid-November is typically when we see our first flurries. So I've adjusted our how many days until. So less than 2 weeks until autumn begins. And right around 11, 12 days, we might see a decent weather pattern change, which we'll look at with our long-range outlook, which, as you know, if you've been watching, is... been on a limb. We'll go on a limb here in just a little bit. Check this out. So yesterday we had the before 8 p.m. sunset, the first before 8 p.m. sunset of this part of the year. Sunset time this evening, 7:58. We lose 1 hour and 11 minutes of daylight. You lose that from both ends, later sunrises and earlier sunsets in September. The next 8 p.m. or later sunset, 197 days away, March 26th. Bummer there. All right, the allergy report is high. Ragweed, it could be impacting you. You're probably seeing that along the sides of the roads. There's a lot of it out there. UV index at a 7 today, despite some cloud cover passing through. And this is the short wave that I'm talking about. So you've got this little ripple in the jet stream, okay? This is a quick little explainer here. You take that ripple, and it's that line. You probably can't see it here, but there's a little line that says 5820. That's the geopotential height up there in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. And there's a little trough. And when you cut that in half, that is the middle of the short wave, and that's where you get uplift, and that's where you can create some clouds. And if it's strong enough uplift, you can get a shower. And that's why we're seeing a few of these showers out to the west. This short wave, this little trough in the atmosphere in the mid-levels, again, about 18,000 feet, is where we were getting this little disturbance to pass on through, giving us some clouds. So that is the explainer of what we're seeing out there today, and tonight maybe a sprinkle with that too. Your forecast summary for today, 84 degrees for your Wednesday, September 10th. Happy hump day, 84, partly cloudy. Again, we got this little clouds moving through now west of I-65, and then we'll likely break out into plenty of more sunshine this afternoon. Sunset at 7:58, light and variable wind. Tonight, a slight sprinkle chance, low 62, partly cloudy, light wind, and our sun up at 7:21. Your Thursday forecast for September 11th, 62 out the door, 80 at noon, 86 for the afternoon high. And that is pretty much back to normal. Normal high is 84, normal low is 64. And our sun up at 7:21, our sunset at 7:56. And again, we mentioned the Lanesville 50 years, the Lanesville Heritage Festival, September 11th to 14. Love the valley over there. Beautiful town. We got Christian Walker, a hot weather fan, so you're going to be happy with the upper 80s to around 90 degrees here this weekend. It's also the Gaslight Fest in Jeffersontown. We used to go there every balloon glow with the kids when they were little, take pictures and all that stuff. That was always fun there. And J-Town when we lived over in Louisville. On the southern Indiana side, the sunny side, we got the Lanesville Festival this weekend, which I've judged the parade before. But also, always an awesome time there. 7-day forecast, mostly dry. Weather continues. If you look closely, I don't know how big of a screen you're looking on. I put some words Saturday and Sunday that just say isolated. Such a small chance, like we're seeing out here today, maybe a little sprinkle passing through. But most of our 7 days is going to be dry. I'm going to go 86 tomorrow, 87 Friday, lows in the upper 50s, low 60s. 88 Saturday, 91 Sunday, Monday, around 90 Tuesday, Wednesday. Humidity not, again, terrible. It's going to be tolerable humidity. It's not going to be the muggy weather that we had in July or August or anything like that. So there it is. Pretty simple 7-day forecast overall here for us. And let me go ahead and bring up the radar, and we'll start to dig into the weather model data. So this is, I think it's just interesting. It's strong enough that it's been beating the weather models. But let's bring up the HRRR and see if it's starting to pick up on this activity, because it does update every hour. And I'm really curious if it is going to start picking up on this or not. Okay, so it is starting to pick up on this. Earlier this morning, it really didn't have much printed out. So let's bring up the HRRR. This is 11 o'clock. So notice that it does pick up on a little bit of that out to our west. The timing maybe a little bit slow on this. But looking ahead, let's see if it tries to hold it together. So there is a little shower chance. See it there? This is at 2 p.m. today with that little shortwave moving through. So we might see some areas along west of I-65 getting in on an isolated little brief shower, a sprinkle, if it can fight some of that dry air at the surface. This is around 4 p.m. today. So I'd say, 20% chance or less of this for the western half of the area. As we go into the later afternoon hours, it's showing nothing here at 5 and 6 o'clock pretty much. But that'll provide a few clouds around. And as we go into the evening time, it's also showing maybe a sprinkle chance. Notice if we look closely here, there's a little blip on the future radar. This is at 9 p.m. So the high resolution models are just starting to pick up on that mid-level disturbance that we were talking about, that short wave. So it might be enough to give us a very, very isolated shower or sprinkle at some point today and tonight. But most areas will be dry. It's around 10 p.m. tonight. Notice a very small, very isolated chance of that sprinkle or a very tiny shower. But hey, if you can get it, take it. Keep some of the dust down. Hey, Ginger, little kitty. This is at midnight tonight, showing that little chance of a shower as well. But we'll take every raindrop we can get, because we might not see much else after this. This is at 2 a.m. I'm going to bring up the 48-hour version of the HRRR. So when we're sleeping, there might be that sprinkle chance overnight. And then that short wave, that disturbance kind of moves off to the east. Now we're looking at tomorrow morning. I'm going to take this to noon tomorrow. And it has us pretty much dry for our Thursday, partly cloudy and dry. All right. So we get the model starting to pick up on what we have out there. I'm going to bring this back to, we're going to look at the other We're going to look at the other high resolution weather model. This is the NAM 3 kilometer weather model, and I'm going to put this at now. It also shows a little bit of this out to our west. Here's 11 a.m. Here is noon. So kind of just showing a sprinkle chance if we can get that. A lot of this, if we look at it, and let me know in the comments if you end up getting a sprinkle or something like that. So a lot of times, as I mentioned earlier, you'll get this disturbance moving through at about 15, 18,000 feet. It does produce some precipitation under that layer of clouds, but as that precip drops, it evaporates as it moves into drier air. And when we have precip that evaporates before hitting the ground, we call that VIRGA, virga. So you can kind of look a little bit dark underneath the clouds, kind of like a little bit of mist or something like that, and then you see it just evaporate. So I think we'll see some of that. It's kind of neat looking underneath the clouds, the virga. But if we do see some of those drops hit the ground, again, let me know in the comments. Would be interested to see that. And we have a few comments popping in here. Again, Christian's a hot weather fan. And happy early birthday to Christian Walker, turning 25 on the 18th. Judy Hoyer, I do love summer heat. Not cold weather person at all. Have a great day. Yeah, there's a lot of summer lovers out there, like myself, but I do. Fall is creeping up in my opinion. It's at 4 p.m. today. It has us mostly dry, but again, if I zoom in and hyper zoom, there's a little blip of green. Will some of those drops hit the ground? We will see. Give me that ground truth. If you get a raindrop, let me know. I'll be looking at comments later today. If you're watching the replay and you're getting a raindrop, drop it in the comments. Pun intended. All right, here's 5 p.m. today. And again, a short wave, mid-level disturbance, giving us a chance. I'm saying there's a little bit of a chance, very small chance. I'm now bumping this weather model ahead to 8 p.m. All right, instead of holding it in front of my face, I'll take a drink. This is at 9 p.m. 11 p.m. So showing a little better chance for some areas out to our west. So for tonight, very isolated shower, maybe a sprinkle that can try to hold together. I'm just going hour by hour here with the NAM 3 kilometer. This is at 1 o'clock in the morning. Just seeing if we get some little blips trying to show up. And again, you got to look closely here. There's just a blip showing the weather calculations with the weather models are getting enough lift to maybe produce that very small chance of some light precip tonight. I just wouldn't count on it very much. Probably having to do a lot more watering, using the sprinklers and all that. Definitely not going to be enough to help out the drought situation that we have across the area. And that could lead us to some elevated fire weather danger as we head later this week. We'll likely see some more burn bans. Okay, so I'm still clicking ahead. This is around 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. Here's 7 o'clock. That short wave is still around the region, but it's still showing that better chance of any little shower, mainly out in western Kentucky, far southwestern Indiana. And let me bring up the precipitable water. So this is a measure of the amount of water that could come out of the atmosphere. I'm going to take this back to basically now. So the precipitable water, this is what I was talking about earlier, is a little higher in western Kentucky and southwestern Indiana and southern Illinois. So this short wave has a little bit of water to work with in the atmosphere. But as we look ahead here into the afternoon, we are seeing that little bit of moisture out west. That's why I'm saying that shower chance is probably going to be greatest, or sprinkle chance, west of 65. It just moves into drier air as that little disturbance moves off to the east. So again, weak disturbance hitting dry air, likely not going to see much out of that. So doing a little more analysis here. I'm going to go into, so this is 6 p.m. today. And again, we look closely here, a little higher level of moisture in the yellow, and then this is all really dry air. So just not expecting much out of that. So let's look a little bit farther down the road here. We've got a live report here with 73 degrees at Lillian Lasley's house. Thank you very much there in Grayson County. Going into our day tomorrow, looking at the precipitable water, the amount of water content in the air. And it's interesting that it stays out west of I-65. This little pocket of slightly more moist air is where we just have that little better chance of a shower. Air is drier out to the east. All right. It's kind of cool to look at the big view of the precipitable water because you can see the tropical air. Remember July? We had that right on top of us, that red. It was just a wall of sweat when you walked outside. And thankfully, we've had a break in the humidity for a long time now, as that Canadian front a while ago really carved out that tropical air. Okay, so I'm going to bring up the GFS weather model here. I've still got it on the precipitable water, and it's still showing pretty dry air over the region. I'm going to go into the 12th, so that's going to be our Friday, looking at dry air in place. And again, you can see the tropical air over the tropics where it should be, and relatively dry air over our region. And again, a little bit too dry, a little bit too much of a good thing leads us to drought conditions and elevated fire danger as well. John Fox with a good morning. Thanks for tuning in here. We've got Jeanette Pierce as well. Good morning from Litchfield. Another week of summer weather. Sounds great until it's gone. That's right. You know, we run out of days that are going to be summer-like, and over the next week, it's going to be more summer-like here for us. Let me jump ahead to next week as we head towards what is Monday the 15th, I think. Yeah. Monday the 15th. Not tropical. Maybe just a tad more humid, especially for areas west of I-65 in that yellow. We're looking at water content in the air with this product right here. Going to like the 18th of September. Tropical air is still over the tropics. We just have a slight bit of humidity across the area. But I was looking at around the 21st. That would be our last day of summer. And it shows a stronger front moving in around that time. We'll see if that happens. So with that, since we're looking this far out, it's time for this. The Ben on a Limb segment. All right, so that's the precipitable water. What does this mean? So as we back out our view, oops, let me don't do that and click on this, click on that. All right. So you're seeing that Canadian air. If this happens, this is 21st. This is the last day of fall. So what is it, about 11 days out? Sunday the 21st, and then Monday the 22nd. And with that, let's take a look at the dew point map. That's a measure of the surface water content. And it will also show the punch of dry air. Look at that. We could look all the way up to the North Pole. That is a large dry air mass that wins the battle here. And you can see it moving through. If this happens on the 21st, we'll go to the 22nd, which is when fall officially begins. And there you go. It has carved out the entire United States almost with dry Canadian air. And if we bring up the temperatures here for the first day of fall, Canada wins basically with some nice looking temps. Much cooler off to our northeast, but maybe 60s and 70s. We'll see if it happens. Mark it on your calendar. We'll take a look whether this model is wrong or is right, or if we see a big change right on the day autumn begins. We'll see if we get this nice cool change moving into the area. But very interesting. That would be a significant weather pattern change. We're going into a summer pattern near 90 this weekend. We'll get back to that 7-day forecast here in just a second. And it looks like that heat could hang around through next weekend. And then again, by Sunday, Monday, not this weekend, next weekend, 21st, 22nd, that's when fall begins, right on time. Bam. Maybe we're looking at some fall crisp air returning to the area. I'd be curious what the low temperature would be that following morning. So look at this. Take a look at that. That is the cool air dropping in. So I'm guessing this is probably going to be 40s, 50s. Yeah, look at that. 40s. Boom, boom, boom. Let's feast our eyes on some 40s, even though I saw some of you guys that are summer lovers don't want to see this, but it's that time of the year we're getting reloaded with fall fronts, and it looks like that could be happening a little bit later this month as fall returns. So week and a half of summer-like weather, we'll say. Humidity not too bad, but up around 90, and then we're going to bring back maybe some fall-like conditions a little bit later down the road. Let's see if the Climate Prediction Center also agrees with this assessment. So we will bring up the CPC, the Climate Prediction Center's 6 to 10 day and 8 to 14 day outlook. You can go to cpc.ncep.noaa.gov if you want to take a look at this yourself. And so it shows what's happening here through next week is a ridge of high pressure building in the heat and sunshine. And we are on the edge of that ridge, but close enough that we will have above normal temperatures, upper 80s, low 90s. And so trending by that time 5 to 10 degrees above normal, feeling like summer. What this map shows us is that the Climate Prediction Center has a higher confidence in above normal temperatures through the next 6 to 10 days. If we bring up the 8 to 14 day outlook, now I'm saying around day 13 as fall begins, the end of the 14-day outlook, that's when we could see the return of the autumn air. But this is the 8 to 14-day outlook that'll pop up next from the Climate Prediction Center, and it shows overall over the next 2 weeks above normal temperatures, a higher likelihood of above normal temperatures. So yeah, the yellow, orange, red from the Climate Prediction Center shows that they have an above normal chance of above normal temperatures. So that's what that map says right there. Summer weather returns for us for the next week and a half or so.